Hi everyone. As you know, Jerusalem has many holy sites. I've made a lot of videos about them. But what you need to know is that in between the holy sites, there are quite a few non-holy people who may try to scam you. In this video, I will show you where you should be extra careful, and I will give you some very useful tips to avoid these scammers. I will say that Jerusalem is safer for tourists than most other cities. In Berlin, I saw much more sophisticated ways to scam tourists, but still nobody wants to visit a religious site and get scammed 2 minutes later. It can ruin the whole day. By the way, I see a deep connection between the scammers who want an extra dollar and the holy sites. I will talk about it at the end of the video, but now the tachlis. Where should you be more alert? Many tours, especially group tours, start the day at the top of the Mount of Olives. My Jerusalem booklet does too. You have the sun behind you, the magnificent old city of Jerusalem in front of you, and whole loads of scam artists all around you. In short, I will say that this is not the place to buy that fake Rolex watch you've always wanted. Make sure you keep your wallet close. If you want to change a lens on your camera, then go to a corner to do it, or enter the cemetery and do it there. From the lookout, most travelers continue to Gethsemane. Outside the church, there are some very aggressive sellers. I guess it is their right to be aggressive, but it is also your right not to buy. My tip here is simple. If you feel pressured, then take it as a sign you shouldn't buy anything from them. Ask what the price is before you touch the object, and don't pick anything up in your hand. The next place you should be aware of is the Via Dolorosa. Now there are dozens of shops along the Via Dolorosa, and most of them are decent merchants who want to make a living. But among them, there are some very aggressive sellers. Remember, compare the prices from one shop to another and never put up with ugly behavior. So you're probably hungry by now. In my Jerusalem app, I pinpoint some great options, but let's say that you've made a mistake and came to Jerusalem without purchasing my app with all my tours and tips. It happens, people make mistakes. Anyway, there are some restaurants that play a dirty trick on customers. In restaurants, you should always ask for the menu. If you get a menu without a prices list, it's a very bad sign. If they don't let you know what the prices are, then you should be suspicious. Don't even order a cup of coffee. They will charge you $10 for it. Now, there is another thing that they do. They give you a menu and you see a falafel or shawarma and the price is reasonable and you order, but then they bring you the falafel plate, which is much more expensive. Now, in many restaurants in Israel, you can buy a falafel in a pita bread or in a plate, which is a bit more expensive. It is very common. But in some of the restaurants, they charge a ridiculous price for the falafel plate without asking you. So my tip for you here is to get my app, and if not, say that you want the falafel for $7 and not the plate for $25. The next spot to be aware of: on your way to the Western Wall from the Jewish quarter, you will come across people wanting to tie a red string around your wrist and bless you, and then they will ask you for money. If you want to donate money, great, I'm for it, but I don't like people pressuring other people to donate money, and I don't know who the money goes to. My tip for you here: don't accept the red string and just keep walking. The last place I want to show you is where most tourists enter the city, Jaffa Gate. Here I wouldn't change money or use the services of the illegal guides who will just take you to their uncle's shop and pressure you to buy jewelry or use any taxes here. Jaffa Gate is the main gateway into the city, so there are plenty of honest shops and a great tip-based tour starts from here, but in general, be aware. Now, I have to say that I know that these kinds of videos are very helpful for travelers, but for me personally, as a tour guide, I would rather talk about history and religion. So let's add a bit of extra knowledge to this video, shall we? The scammers are not a new thing. They were here from the moment Jerusalem became Jerusalem. Mark Twain wrote about most of what I've outlined here 150 years ago. The best-selling of Twain's work during his lifetime was the travel book The Innocents Abroad, which he wrote while he was here in 1867. His book, not so politically correct, I must say, describes Jerusalem better than any travel video you will ever see, including, of course, my videos. But there is another point to make here. How can it be that next to the holiest places, the place where the Jewish temple stood, where Jesus was resurrected, where Muhammad ascended to heaven to negotiate with God about how many prayers a Muslim ought to pray, right next to these places that are so important to billions of people, you have someone trying to rip you off and sell you a falafel for 25 bucks? The highest and the lowest are two sides of the same coin. Think about it. The Jewish temples stood where Abraham almost sacrificed his son, and where Jesus suffered on the cross next to the thieves, humiliated, mocked by the masses. Sacrifice, humiliation, blood, holiness, faith, they are all very closely related. Here on this side are the holiest sites, and here just outside Jaffa Gate is the valley, Gai in Hebrew, where they sacrificed children, Gai ben Hinnom, Gehenom, hell. It is not a coincidence that the stairway to heaven and hell are so close. That's it. If you want my personal blessing, give this video a like, subscribe, check out my internet site, and be a good person. See you in Jerusalem. Yalla bye.